Good morning, this is Jack from Charting Markets, and this is the pre-market webinar for the morning of Tuesday, the 19th of May. My disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing, learn from it, transfer it to your own charts, and I'm not here to issue trading signals. This is a video for paying subscribers at chartingthemarkets.substack.com. It's published on YouTube after a delay of 24 hours. All right, we are in an interesting position here. Now, the downtrend has been interrupted to a degree by the announcement yesterday that, of course, the planned, which of course none of us known about, but I've been suggesting that there was likely to be a return to hot war this week. But it appears that was scheduled for tomorrow, and that's now been delayed because there's more talks. Are there more talks? Well, probably not. So there's not actually any evidence to suggest there are any more talks, but it does turn out there is a reason for this, which is that the Gulf states told Trump that in the event that he went back to war without consulting them and without their permission, then they would not be, well, basically, then, the Americans would not be able to use any of their bases in the Persian Gulf, which of course would make any significant escalation rather difficult. So we shall see. And of course, in the event they were forced to entirely rely on Europe to do it, then, well, to be honest, they're on pretty thin ice there. I think a lot of the Europeans have understood that if you want Trump to say nice things about you, you actually have to be his enemy and not his friend. And given that, the US is effectively on the Russian side in the Russia-Ukraine war, I think a lot of the Europeans are probably wondering why exactly it's useful to the Europeans to have the American bases there. It does allow the Americans to project their power all over the world, but frankly, I think they're wondering what the advantage to them of that is, too, after this complete debacle in Iran. So the question is, what's the market seeing here? Well, we have seen a significant move up. We saw a significant rally at the close yesterday. That's pretty much all been given back. So we're only 15 points off the lows yesterday, and we could be about to continue down. But we do have quite a lot of support here, and there are a few other things to consider that I'd like to look at. What I was wondering yesterday was, what are the chances of seeing a return to retest the all-time high? Because as with any high, I'm always looking for the topping patterns. Now, I've got a couple of possible head and shoulder necklines drawn in here, and I've got, there's two here. There's only really one main one on the SPX chart, and I'm wondering whether we might go down to that, form a right shoulder, and then go down from there. But I am wondering about a retest of the high. There's a few reasons to wonder if that's the case. Obviously, this could be a bull flag on NQ. That could be a bull flag too. RTY. This looks like a bull flag. And what I'm thinking we may have done here, so I'm just going to move this trend line. What if we broke up from the original bull flag and are forming a larger bull flag? Now, obviously, if we go down significantly here today and hold that, then that's going to become a lot less likely. And of course, we might hit the possible head and shoulder neckline here. But right now, actually, that kind of looks like a bull flag. YM could be a bull flag. We've got a potential little level bottom here, and actually we've got the same on ES. But with me a moment, I'll just show you. Let's have a look at the 15-minute chart. Bear with me. All right, what do we got here? Well, first low, second low, and you know what? If we broke up from that, the target would be almost exactly at, I think it would be about 3 or 4 points short, just short of a test of an all-time high. Now, just because a pattern forms doesn't mean it's going to play out. This was an inverse head and shoulders. I was talking about this yesterday morning. It broke up and it fell, and actually, by the time it fell, I was expecting it. I had a really nice trade yesterday, and I took about 61 points on the failure at the weekly pivot because it failed there, and it came back up here and tested it for a while. And then it failed, and there was a really nice run down into the lows when, of course, fortunately, I got out fairly soon before the announcement, which then spiked the market up again. But that was a really nice trade. So just because you see a pattern form, and even if you see it break up, doesn't mean it's going to play out, but the pattern is there. We could do that retest. And now the pattern isn't as strong because this overnight low wasn't the overnight low on SPX, and it may be that we're going to set up a smaller pattern with a retest of the low here. But this is a decent support level, and this is something which could deliver a retest of the high, or at least a sizable rally, and I'll be watching out for that. DAX, we broke down from a little level top here, and we have actually when we might be heading back up to the high here on ESTX. Again, I'm wondering about it. Nice looking double top here too. Nikkei, we've actually got a 60-minute buy signal fixed on Nikkei. Now we've got a double top. We've got a target in the 59,500 area, and it may make that target. But you see here, that's a little double bottom as well. And looking at YM, we broke down for a double top here and on Dia. Sorry, we didn't break down for it here. We broke down for it on Dia, and obviously we've seen a bit of a pullback here. Could that retest the high again too? Could it potentially make the all-time high retest that I was looking for and wasn't made? Potentially, yeah. So I'm wondering about that. And looking at the bigger picture chart, hang on. All right, looking at the bigger picture chart. Well, first thing to say on the bigger picture chart is this. Looking at, okay, in terms of I was talking a couple of 3 weeks ago, I think, about the possibility if we were making a significant high that we would come up and hit a significant trend line on the bigger picture chart on SPX, and here is that trend line. We went through the first one I posted then. We went through to an alternate one, which was even better, and that is a beautiful trend line. Now, of course, that could overthrow, but it's nice. Looking at Qs, that was slightly messier, but let's have a quick look. I'm just going to show you now. Normally I look at the Qs chart because that's what people are trading, and that's what I'm mainly looking at. Let's have a look at the my actual NDX chart. This is the NDX log scale chart, because of course, really for any period of time this has been going up so much. I mean, this has gone up. This has tripled since early 22. You've got to look at the log scale chart. And on a log scale chart, if it's truly the right chart to be using, you tend to get nice looking patterns too. What have we got here? We've got a perfect touch of resistance there. On Dia, we didn't need to go any higher, but I was hoping to see a retest of 5.09 on IWM. IWM, we had a very nice touch of this trend line here. That is more than acceptable. And we've seen obviously a breakdown from here. Now, in terms of the topping patterns, I'm thinking we might get SPX. I've got a target here down in about the I think that's the 73. 73.28. Yeah, another 25 handles down below, and we get down to a possible head and shoulder neckline. We've got one slightly below that, but there are a couple of decent options there. But of course, we can form a topping pattern just by retesting the high, and we could do that. Do we have any positive divergence here? Yes, we've got an RSI 14 buy signal fixed at the close yesterday. All right, looking at the Qs, where we had another RSI 14 buy signal fixed at the close yesterday. Again, I've got a neckline below 696.64 area, but of course we could come down to that. We could do a right shoulder bounce, but of course we could just retest the high. In terms of Dia, still got that little bit of unfinished business, it looks like, above. We've got a nice looking double top here. That could break down directly, but we could go up and hit that unmet target, which I'm still wondering about. And we've got an RSI 14 buy signal fixed here. All on the 15-minute. These could all get run over. Just looking at the daily bands here. We're not close to the daily middle band yet on SPX, but if we want to get closer, then of course we could start hitting those possible head and shoulder necklines. In terms of the Qs, not close to the daily middle band here either. Back testing that broken trend line here, which is interesting. We've had two almost perfect back tests. This could just be a bearish overthrow, or at least that's what it is on the analog chart rather than the log chart. Dia, we're testing the daily middle band again. That hasn't broken. Of course, on IWM, we have broken it. So that's looking the weakest in terms of structure there. And that's the one where we've seen some real technical damage so far. We've got daily sell signals across the board. Looking at the IWM chart, that's an RSI 14 sell signal just as well, because an RSI 5 one would have made target already. But there, we had a breakdown here on Friday, and we saw trading entirely below the daily middle band with that as resistance yesterday. That's some technical damage. We've got daily sell signals across the board. We could go just straight down, but I am still looking for topping patterns. Now here, we could go back and retest the high, set up a double top, or we can go down a bit more here and possibly set up a head and shoulders with a neckline in about the 270 area. In terms of the 15-minute chart, well, we got an RSI 14 buy signal fixed there too, and we've got a pretty decent looking possible flag here. Is this Is this as nice a flag as the original one that broke up? No. Is it still potentially valid? Yes. And there is a case for going back up and retesting the high here. If not, I'm thinking a bit lower and we'll probably form some head and shoulders. In a situation like this where we have a high where there is some kind of a crisis, do we tend to get topping patterns in the same way as normal? Well, we had beautiful topping patterns in 2020. So yeah, very much so. And actually, 2008 was pretty tactical. All of these things tend to deliver pretty good patterns. So I'm not really seeing much difference here. It could be that we're just going to see it, do an 87 and just, head down and do like a couple of thousand points in no time. But there's no particular indication so far that that's what we're going to do. So at the moment, I'm not expecting to see that. I'm looking for patterns. All right. In terms of DAX, on the daily chart, not a lot to see really. Backtesting the 200 DMA here and the 50 DMA as support at the moment. Nikkei, we've got an RSI 5 sell signal which has fixed and reconfirmed, and we are testing the daily middle band as support here. On a break below, well, we'll see how that goes. All right, great. Let's have a look at the DX chart. Now, we've got a pattern here, which is that oil goes up, DX goes up, and at the moment, oil's near the highs, and DX is certainly near the recent highs. Bonds go down. Well, we're definitely seeing that. And gold tends to go down too. Now, that's something that we are still seeing. But I've got, and something I was talking about yesterday was that we've got buy signals across the board on metals, including on copper. And we're so far not seeing a lot from that. But I am thinking if we were, those buy signals could all play out in the event that we went up and retested the high on equities and we got a boost on precious metals, which is the correlation as we have seen it lately. So looking at the others, USD, we had a 60-minute buy signal and we still do. The GBP USD one made target, and no sell signal there. USD JPY, we had a sell signal brewing and we've got one fixed. USD CAD, 60-minute sell signal fixed. We're seeing a fair number of indications here that the dollar may go down a bit. And if that goes down and oil goes down and equities go up, well, we could see that high retest. In terms of ZB, we've got a 60-minute buy signal fixed here too. We've got another one on ZN, so I'm having a little bit of issue with my data. Sometimes we get this on IB. But we had a clear buy signal there last night, and we've got one now, even if you can't actually see some of it. I think what happens is some of the out-of-hours data disappears for a while and then comes back. In terms of oil, we've got 60-minute sell signal is fixed and made possible near miss target on Brent. On CL here, we got a 60-minute sell signal fixed. On HO, we got a weak 60-minute sell signal fixed. These aren't definitive, but they're promising. NG, not really affected by the Iran war and just heading up towards target in the 3.17 area. On GC, 60-minute buy signal fixed. SI, 60-minute buy signal fixed. Palladium, 60-minute buy signal fixed. Platinum, 60-minute buy signal fixed, and even copper has got a 60-minute buy signal fixed. Now, none of these have really delivered a significant rally, but today could be the day, and these could all make target. That's probably not going to happen if equities just continue on their downward path, but there is a case to be made for a high retest here. How seriously the market takes any talk of negotiations here. Now, I don't think there are actually any negotiations. I don't think there were ever any real negotiations. I think basically Iranians are demanding the American surrender and the Americans are demanding the Iranian surrender. And that's basically where negotiations have been for the last 2 months. I'm not saying that's necessarily changed in the slightest, but it does look as though we might see a few day gap. And in previous times where, Trump has said, negotiations are going really well, etc., I'm pretty sure he was lying or delusional. But nonetheless, we had like $10 declines in oil. Now, that's not something we've seen this time. In terms of oil, this was the announcement. I think. Hang on 1 second. Yeah, we had basically a $3 decline on the announcement of the talks yesterday, and then it went up and made a higher high. But we could see a more positive reaction to that today. If there isn't one, and no one believes Trump, well, let's just say I would be sympathetic for sure. So I'm not. I don't believe him either. But nonetheless, we've had some pretty positive reactions from that in the past, and we might see another one of those here. So we shall see. All right, great. Let's have a look at the other commodities. KC, 60-minute buy signal fixed. Sorry, sorry, I've actually marked in the arrow, but I forgot to put in the 60-minute buy signal fixed. We do have potential bottoming action here, and I am wondering whether we might see a significant reversal. I'm going to be watching this rally. If this just pieces out without it really going anywhere, then that's going to be a strike in the favor of the coffee bears. In terms of SB, this is a triangle, and it's a nice triangle. So I'm leaning towards this breaking up into a retest of this high. That could be the second high of a double top, but equally this could go higher. But at the moment, we had a double top. It broke down here. Sorry, it had head and shoulders. It broke down here. It failed. That gives us a target at a retest this high. This triangle would likely end up at a retest this high as well. So I'm expecting that to happen. CC, we've got a head and shoulders, which is broken down with a target in the 3,500 area. Not seeing anything compelling to suggest that won't make target. CT, we're seeing a bit of a pullback here after on the bigger picture. The big double bottom that I was talking about on the bigger picture webinars made target. We'll see how far that goes, but it's still using a lot of fertilizer that is still being blocked by the Strait of Hormuz. Those fertilizer prices have at least tripled, I understand. That's going to be affecting both yields and the amount of crops being planted. So I think we're going to be coming back to that. That will likely pull back and go up again. CW, that pulled up and is heading back to the highs. As the wheat, corn, and soy all depend on this fertilizer as well, basically based on urea. Which an awful lot of that comes from the Gulf. Corn had a pullback, almost back at the highs. Soy had a pullback, almost back at the highs. I've got a little double bottom that's broken up here, which hasn't made target yet. I'm expecting all of these to go higher. ZL, pretty close to the highs already. Live cattle should be bull flag breaking up towards the highs, and I'm liking the retest of this high here. Harder to say what happens after that. Could be a double top, of course. HE, we've got potential bottoming action here, not particularly with not any particular force, but at the moment we've still got a nice looking double bottom here, and I'm thinking that might deliver. All right, let's have a quick look at questions. And hang on a second. All right, let's have a quick look at questions. What kind of time frame were you expecting to create right shoulder or head and shoulders? Days, because if you look at it, how long did the left shoulder take to form? In each case, 2 or 3 days. So having said that, we might need to go a bit lower before it would do that. But yeah, I would expect in days, not weeks. In terms of a retest of the high, I'd expect that in days as well. I don't think we've got weeks. I think well, basically at 10 million barrels a day, oil reserves above ground in the West and across the world are drying up. They're being used. That's going to cause a problem. Even if the Strait of Hormuz opened up again tomorrow, it would take a couple of months for that to get back up to full speed. And the whole world would need to adjust to that oil shock of all that oil being missing from reserves. So I'm expecting oil prices to go up a lot. So, but they've been very slow to do that, and I think partially that's because people have a tendency just to hope for the best. We were seeing exactly the same thing before COVID. People thinking that the market, has all the information and applies it rationally. Got to say, that's not been my experience watching it in the past. There's an awful lot of very irrational decisions in the market. People are sheep; they tend to move in flocks. All the analysts like to be wrong at the same time as everyone else, because that way they don't get fired for being wrong when they were alone. So there's an awful lot of impetus for markets to move together frequently in the wrong direction. All right, great. In that case, I think that's a wrap. Everyone take care. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. I'm expecting an interesting day. Basically, on EF, what I'm looking for here is either to come down to these trend lines here or start heading back up to the highs. I think we're likely to do one or the other. I'd like to see it go back up and retest the highs because, of course, that provides another perfect short entry. We shall see. All right, cheers, guys. See you tomorrow.